The San Antonio Spurs have a problem, a big one. They've got 3 elite guards, Aaronfox running the floor, Stefon Castle demanding more touches, and rookie Dylan Harper entering the mix.
Harper turning,
The Spurs suddenly have too much talent at the same position. But here's where it gets interesting. This problem might actually be the best thing that's ever happened to San Antonio, because Dylan Harper just revealed a piece of his game that could make all of this work. And if he's the answer, the Spurs may have just built the scariest young backcourt in the NBA. Since the start of the offseason, the Spurs have gone through some major changes. They brought in rookie Carter Bryant, added veteran big men Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk, and most importantly, drafted the crown jewel of their offseason, Dylan Harper, with the number 2 overall pick right after Cooper Flagg. But here's the problem. Harper is joining a roster that's already stacked with guards. The Spurs just traded for Aaronfox and locked him up with a 4-year, $222 million max contract extension. They already have Stefon Castle, the reigning Rookie of the Year.
3, but he got his own miss. Goes to the rim, switches hands over the king again.
And now Harper is added to the mix. That's 3 young guards who all want the ball in their hands, and none of them are reliable shooters from deep. That overlap created plenty of questions before the draft. Some people thought San Antonio might actually trade the number 2 pick to balance the roster, maybe add more shooting or size in the front court, and just roll with Fox and Castle in the backcourt. But Harper's talent was simply too much to pass up. In fact, if he were in last year's draft class, he probably would have gone number 1 overall. So now the Spurs have what looks like an incredible backcourt on paper, but also a real challenge. Only one of these guards can truly run the offense, and at some point, San Antonio will have to decide who gets the keys. But here's where things get interesting. Harper himself may have already given us the answer. This summer, on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, Harper talked about his situation in San Antonio and compared it to James Harden's early years with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
You're not going to get the keys all day like James Harden was in the Thunder.
Right. Yeah.
Come on the bench 6 man for 3-4 years waiting for his turn. So like everyone got to wait for their turn. So I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it.
But here's why this matters more than just a podcast quote. It gives us a clear picture of how the Spurs plan to use him. At Rutgers, Harper had the freedom to do whatever he wanted. Alongside fellow lottery pick Ace Bailey, the two ran the show. The ball was always in his hands, and he delivered, averaging 19.4 points and 4.4 assists per game, and proving he was one of the best players in college basketball.
BC Player of the Year. Harper goes strong and finishes.
That resume alone would normally guarantee him starter minutes right away in the NBA. But in San Antonio, that may not be the case. And instead of fighting it, Harper is already showing he's willing to come off the bench if that's what the team needs. And that's huge, because what the Spurs may have just found is another team-first mentality monster, something this franchise has built championships on. It's not the first time we've seen this in San Antonio. During the dynasty years, Manu Ginobili accepted a bench role despite being talented enough to start on any team in the league. That sacrifice didn't stop him from reaching his full potential. In fact, it made the Spurs nearly impossible to beat. And that's the bigger point here. Talent alone doesn't turn great players into stars. It's how they carry themselves behind the scenes, how they buy into something bigger than themselves. Harper already has the physical tools of an elite basketball player. But what could separate him from every other player in the 2025 draft class is his leadership, his maturity, and his relentless desire to be the best and to also help his team. And speaking of which, one big area for Dylan Harper at the next level will be his role adaptation. He knows the Spurs value a team-first mindset above everything. And with Aaronfox and Stefon Castle ahead of him, he's not going to walk in with a starring role. Instead, his impact will come from adapting his skill set to whatever fit the team needs. And the thing is, Harper is already showing he's built for that. At Rutgers, he wasn't just a scorer, he was a connector. He's willing to set screens, cut hard, space the floor, and defend. Those little things that don't always make highlights, but win games. Yes, he's a 3-level scorer and a tough shot maker. But in San Antonio, he doesn't need to force that. He can play off the ball, attack in transition, and let Fox and Castle do the heavy lifting while he fills the gaps. This willingness to embrace a supporting role is exactly what separates prospects who struggle from those who thrive in the NBA. He's not just betting on his talent, he's betting on his ability to fit. And there's a blueprint for this. James Harden. After a dominant sophomore year at Arizona State, where James Harden led the Pac-10 in scoring with 20.1 points, earned first-team All-American honors alongside Steph Curry and Blake Griffin, and became a top 3 pick. You'd think the NBA would immediately hand him the keys, but instead, Harden walked into a loaded Thunder roster that already had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. That meant coming off the bench, averaging 9.9 points as a rookie, and embracing a role that was far smaller than his talent suggested. By year 3, Harden's maturity and willingness to accept that role paid off. He won Sixth Man of the Year after averaging 16.8 points and became the missing piece of a finals team. And while he eventually left OKC and blossomed into an MVP in Houston, the foundation of his greatness was laid in those years of sacrifice. That's the exact perspective Dylan Harper is taking. He knows that behind Aaronfox and Stefon Castle, he may not get to be the guy right away. But instead of fighting that, Harper is leaning into it. He's willing to come off the bench, play off ball, screen, cut, space the floor, defend, and do the little things that help a team win. His focus isn't on putting up numbers, it's on building chemistry and stacking wins. And if you think about it, Harden isn't the only blueprint here. The Spurs already built a dynasty on this exact formula. Manu Ginobili, an all-star caliber talent, chose to embrace a six-man role for the sake of the team. That selflessness became the backbone of the Spurs' Big Three era. And Harper, he's showing flashes of the same mentality and even some more of the same skill set. Like Ginobili, Harper plays with controlled aggression. He doesn't just score, he creates. His change of pace, tight handle, and ability to get buckets from anywhere on the floor give him the toolkit of a future offensive engine. The difference is, he doesn't need to be that guy right now. And that's what makes this so dangerous for the rest of the league, because there's plenty of time in a 48-minute game for Harper to make his mark. And if the young Spurs core all reach their potential, they'll have a lineup that can find an advantage against anyone. But while all the hype has been about Dylan Harper, it's easy to forget that Stefon Castle is still the reigning Rookie of the Year. And for good reason. In just his first season, he showed us exactly why San Antonio invested in him. At UConn, Castle played a very different role, one that didn't fully showcase what he could do offensively. But in the NBA, he broke out. Castle averaged 14.7 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 4.1 assists, while shooting 42.8% from the field. He thrived in isolation, using his speed and strength to attack the paint, draw fouls, and create his own shot. Even though his three-point percentage was just 28.5%, he flashed enough shot-making ability to suggest that once the jumper comes around, he could become nearly unguardable. And what makes Castle so special, though, is that he's not just a scorer. His defense is already ahead of his age. At just 20 years old, he uses his size, physicality, and instincts to guard both wings and guards at the point of attack. Few rookies impact the game on that end as much as he did, and that's what makes his future so exciting. He has all the tools to become a true two-way force. The next step for Castle will be improving his offensive decision-making, tightening up his jumper, and expanding his playmaking. If he can become a reliable outside shooter, the Spurs suddenly have a guard who can dominate both ends of the floor. Coming off a rookie season where he exceeded expectations and began to look like a star in the making, Castle is preparing for a huge leap in 25-26. Now it's up to head coach Mitch Johnson to guide that growth and, just as importantly, give Castle the freedom to do what he does best. Because while he's excellent off the catch and on cuts, Castle still needs isolation touches. Take that away, and the Spurs risk wasting one of the most dynamic young guards in the league. But just as much as Castle, Aaronfox will be a player to watch closely next season. Fresh off signing a massive 4-year extension, the 27-year-old isn't going anywhere, and he's certainly not the guard who will be coming off the bench. Fox simply brings too much to the table right now compared to Castle or Harper. In a limited stint in San Antonio last season, Fox still averaged 19.7 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 6.8 assists per game, shooting 44.6% from the field. His three-point shooting at 27.4% wasn't great, but it's not the defining part of his game. What makes Fox so valuable is the way he relentlessly pressures defenses with his speed. Few guards in the league are as explosive in transition or as dangerous at slicing into the paint. But Fox's impact goes beyond just numbers. He brings leadership, playoff experience, and a proven ability to deliver in clutch moments. That's something the Spurs desperately need with such a young backcourt. For Castle and Harper, having Fox as a mentor is almost as important as having him as a teammate. He sets the tone with his work ethic, his pace, and his ability to take over when the game is on the line. All in all, San Antonio's starting backcourt will almost certainly be anchored by Aaronfox and Stephon Castle next season. Fox will run the show as the lead guard, while Castle settles into the 2 spot. With Fox's pace and scoring gravity, paired with Castle's length and versatility, that's already a dynamic pairing. But here's where it gets interesting. Harper, his offensive upside could eventually make him the wild card. He can play either guard spot, soak up 25 or 35-ish backcourt minutes, and give the Spurs a different look depending on matchups. That depth makes San Antonio unpredictable, as rotations could shift game to game, quarter to quarter. Looking further down the road, if Harper develops as expected, running the offense, hitting threes, and thriving next to Wembanyama, San Antonio could eventually put Fox on the trade block. A prime Fox would net a haul, depth, draft capital, or even a star wing tailor-made to slot beside Wemby. For now though, the Spurs are cautious. Fox remains the steady hand at point guard, Harper is the rookie in development, and Castle bridges both worlds with his defensive range and two-way game. But with that being said, the ultimate determining factor of who runs the point will be how well they work with the anchor of the team, Victor Wembanyama. Wemby doesn't need the ball in his hands 24/7 to dominate. What he needs is spacing, smart playmakers, and tough defenders around him. Teammates who can make his life easier on both ends of the floor. And that's where this Spurs core starts to get really interesting. Aaronfox brings relentless pace and rim pressure. His ability to collapse defenses not only creates easy lobs and kickouts, but it also forces opponents to constantly shift their coverage away from Wemby. Stefon Castle adds physicality and defensive toughness at the guard spot, plus unselfish playmaking that makes him a natural fit alongside the star big man. Dylan Harper provides even more versatility, a guard who can score, cut, or defend depending on what the team needs. And it doesn't stop there. Harper Carter Bryant, along with Jeremy Sohan, gives San Antonio additional layers of defensive grit and switchability. Put all of that around Wemby, and suddenly the 7'3" phenom has the freedom to pick his spots and dominate efficiently without being forced to carry every possession. We already saw flashes of this last season before his health setback. In just his second year, Wembanyama was putting up 24.3 points, 11 rebounds, nearly 4 assists, and leading the league with 3.8 blocks per game, while also launching 8.8 threes per night and knocking them down at 35%. That kind of versatility doesn't need more volume, it needs structure, balance, and the right backcourt to unlock it. With Fox driving the tempo, Castle and Harper providing defensive toughness and unselfish offense, and young wings like Sohan and Bryant filling in the gaps, the Spurs are building a core that maximizes Wembanyama's unique skill set. And that's the key. When your star is this efficient, the pieces around him don't need to be flashy. They just need to be complementary. All in all, the blueprint is there for Harper to succeed in San Antonio. It might start with him coming off the bench, then working his way into the starting lineup, and eventually into a top guard in the league. The truth is, the physical ability and talent are there. He's a big-bodied, do-it-all playmaker with positional versatility. He puts constant pressure on the rim, has creative footwork, and can finish smoothly with either hand. He won't be the quickest or most explosive at NBA level, but he's got more than enough athleticism to thrive. His size makes him dangerous in one-on-one situations, but he's even more effective using screens and has the potential to be an offensive engine thanks to his feel for the game and willingness to find open teammates. Yes, Harper will have his work cut out for him as a rookie, but he's talented enough and has the mentality to figure it out. He's shown he's willing to sacrifice individual shine for team success, and that's exactly what the Spurs' last dynasty was built on. And it's not just Harper. Guys like Stephon Castle, Aaronfox, and, of course, Wemby are all part of a hungry core that fits together in a scary way. If this San Antonio group finds the right chemistry, we might be witnessing the birth of a Spurs dynasty. Let me know how far the Spurs will go in the 25-26 season. Or is this hype too soon? Drop your take in the comments, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got way more videos coming your way.